I'm just sharing today on how I can and do still come into a place of rest and peace in my life, despite what's going on in the world, despite what's going on in my life. So I'm not ignoring the world. I'm passing it over to the one who created it constantly and asking and thanking for wisdom. But I'm not, now I used to ignore my feelings of restlessness. I wasn't at rest. I used to ignore the feelings of a lack of peace. I pretended, and I used to believe that if I believed it hard enough and I put all the power of positive thinking into action, then I would just come to peace. If you speak it out, it'll come to be. I will be peaceful and I will experience rest. Wrong. I discovered that in addition to that, there is something else that needs to happen apart from what I just mentioned. And that is I needed to deal with the restlessness in me and the lack of peace in me in an authentic way. And I realized something very, very important over the years is that it wasn't always the whole of me that was restless or lacked peace. I came to realize through an experience of being grumpy one day, which led on to me realizing it applies to any time I'm restless or lack peace, that there's just an aspect of me. I was able to become the observer on this day when I was so grumpy and I was going off to a conference to speak at it. And I thought, what is wrong with you? And I spoke to my grumpy part, which you can to your restless part, to your part of you, your aspect of your being that is lacking peace. And you can do this. It's a practical tool, and it works if it's not really, really deep. And I just said, what's wrong with you? You're so grumpy. And it's like I was two people, the observer part of me that's living in the world but not of it, my spiritual self. What's wrong with you, grumpy Helen? And that's what you can do with yourself. You are learning to listen to yourself, your restless part, you're the part of you that lacks peace, or certainly when you're grumpy, you're not at peace. You're certainly restless. So I listened. And the words that came through as I listened to that part of me were, I don't want to go and give this teaching. I feel insecure. I'm not sure that I can do it. I was doubting my ability, and I was putting myself in a situation where I was going to be in front of people and I was talking, and I was frightened and doubting that I could do it. So it was all about my insecurities. So you know what? All I did was listen to my grumpy part. And that grumpy part of me was listened to, just like a grumpy, irritable child. And the moment I said, I hear that, I kind of gave that grumpy part of me a hug. That just peace came into me, total peace. And I didn't feel disconnected from myself. I was reconnected to a part of me that was struggling because I just, out of unconditional love, listened to that part of me. You can do that. That's a very surface level tool and that you can put in your toolkit. But when you get grumpy, irritable, restless, when you lack peace, you can actually stand back and with the spirit of wisdom, so tell me what's wrong with you, and listen to your feelings, listen to your thoughts. And it's no big session, it's just simple and it's on the surface. No, I didn't even know I was going to share that with you today, but for some reason I'm meant to share that with you. Now with deeper stuff, for instance, when my daughter was stopping breathing off and on for 3 years with very severe asthma and couldn't eat anything much without having an attack of asthma, so much so that she was in micro ambulances going to hospitals and she'd collapse in my arms. I didn't know whether she was going to breathe again. That's a different story. That didn't work. I couldn't use that tool in that sort of circumstances. So in your life, what are you dealing with that's really dramatic? Well, in my life, when I did that, I had prayed and I'd done all I knew how to do. I'd taken it to all the doctors and the professors and nothing worked. And I was running around, I guess, actually an image of me running around like in circles, panicking, certainly not peaceful, panicking. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What can I do next? What can I do next? Do you relate to that? What situation in your life where something was pretty dramatic in your life, where it sent you into a spiral of feeling out of control and running around? You didn't have the answers, you don't know what to do. And if you don't do it, the belief was something bad is going to happen. She's going to die. She could die. So you have to think about in that situation in your life where you lack peace and you're restless. I certainly wasn't restful. That I was running around in circles, but I didn't know how to stop. Even though I was praying, I didn't know how to stop and deal with my feelings and emotions. I was panicking, scared, frantic, and I'm sure that didn't help my daughter as well. Until one day, when I'd done all I knew how to do, I did what I was being called to do. And in Matthew 11, it says, "Come with me, buy yourself to a quiet place and get some rest." Well, I hadn't thought of that, but I came. I answered the call to the only one that knew could bring life to my daughter in that situation. And I just knelt before, a nun gave me a beautiful old cross, and I just said, "Take her if you want. I can't do this anymore." To her, to me, this panic, this fear, this terror, this sense of helplessness and powerlessness. I can't do it anymore. I surrender her. The key there is surrender. When you are overwhelmed with emotions, you can't even identify the emotions because you're so frozen out of terror. Just surrender, and surrender to the one who created that person, that situation. And as I surrendered to her, these were the keys that I learned that have profoundly changed my life and brought a peace beyond understanding. As I surrendered to her and said, "If you wanted to leave, let her live. I have no idea what to do anymore. If you want to take her, you created her, take her in peace." I really prayed, "Your will be done." How do I know that? Because I felt this peace beyond understanding literally flood over me. It was extraordinary in a place where you would think the opposite. This peace beyond understanding just flooded me. Not only did I experience peace, but I also was able to hear clearly in my mind, I guess in my spirit, some instructions that I was being given, because I needed to stop reacting. Another key is never to react in situations. Otherwise, you will lose your peace. You will lose your restfulness. But I was told to respond to the situation in my life, and it could be in your life. And how was I told to respond? I was first of all told to stop talking about the drama. Do you talk about drama? Do you talk about the thing that disturbs your peace? Do you talk about the thing that makes you restless all the time? And you're talking about the situation. In this case, it was my daughter. What is it in your life that you keep talking about that's dramatic? Well, I was instructed to stop talking about her illness to everyone. And it wasn't until later on reflection I understand why. Because the more I talked about the drama, the more I talked about what was going on, the more it just confirmed the drama and the illness. And then I was shown something in this beautiful place. You may also be shown, if you also surrender and come aside and wait, you also might be given another perspective. Because I was in the presence of peace, I knew that it was beyond me, because it was not how I was feeling before. I was also shown an image, and sometimes you're given images of her dancing in the daisies, a field of daisies, for which I am eternally grateful, because as I looked at her dancing in the daisies, and they were tall, I heard her say to me quite clearly, it was like I was in another dimension, "Mummy, I'm okay." So in somehow or other, in her and through the one who created her, despite her being upstairs with oxygen under the bed, she was telling me she was okay. And I knew at that time that's what I was to focus on. The image that I was given and the perspective I was given from my creator. This was a massive teaching for me. I had to change my ways. I had to change my thoughts. I had to change the way I was speaking. And I had to hold on to in faith, despite the fact of the reality around me. I had to hold on in faith that that would come about. But I had this peace beyond understanding. And I'd also surrendered. I'd let go of control. And I'd allowed the one who created her to take over, take control. And then I was kind of given the spirit of self-control. And I sensed that I was not alone, and I was with somebody who could control or bring order out of the chaos that was in my life. And he did. Within weeks, I ended up giving up and going to a doctor because I was directed there. And I thought, well, if you want me to, another one. And I just stopped talking about it. We went to this doctor. Anyway, to cut a long story short, she became a personal trainer. She got well, became a personal trainer, is married with 2 children, and she doesn't have asthma anymore. And it's the most, and she dances in the daisy. She's full of life, and she's the most beautiful, beautiful young woman with her children. And she remembers those experiences. And occasionally some memories come back and we look at it and the peace comes again because of so many dramas. So I'm encouraging you, no matter what's happened to you, to come back and surrender and wait. Come with me by yourself into my presence, even if you don't feel it, and get some rest. And in that place, as everything calms, you can begin to sense, listen to wisdom, and you can be guided by wisdom, but there's a peace. Now when I ask you all, if you operate from a place of peace, you attract the way you're being. So I attracted more peace into my life, more order into my life. And slowly, the roller coaster ride became more fun as I learned, rather than absolutely being petrified as I used to when I used to go in a Big Dipper. I would just freeze. So it was a bit too much like life for me at that stage in my life. So you've heard lots of tools there about that. So are you rested or are you restless? And when you're restless, what do you do? I'm asking you the question so you get present to yourself. Do you give that part of restless part of you a voice? Do you listen to it with love? Do you invite the one who created you to become present to that restless part? Do you wait long enough to connect to those parts of you that still need the presence of peace and wisdom and love? I really believe it's an ongoing journey. Certainly is in my life, but I now know what to do. So I don't resist pain in my body or emotional pain. I know now what to do, to go into it, and ask the wonderful counsellor to bring it all up to the surface, just like you would a wound, all the feelings, all the beliefs, and ask him to do it, and then I ask for his perspective. When I get his perspective, as have hundreds of people over the last 20 years, then you experience the truth, and the truth brings freedom and peace. Are you restless anymore? In that peace? No. Do you remember it? So you've got a choice. Peace or anxiety, fear, and tension. Once upon a time, I didn't even know I was tense. I was so disconnected. And I was so into being positive about everything that I'd press all the negative, yucky stuff down. But please listen to me. When that yucky, negative stuff comes up, you don't go and sit in it. You don't wade in it. It's like sitting in a dirty pond, and you'll drown in this swamp of lies, of emotions that are, and beliefs about being no good, you're nothing, you're an idiot, it's your fault, you're to blame. All of this is the accuser trying to drown you in this swamp. He comes with mercy, grace. We often just need to forgive ourselves, become our own best friend, even if we've stuffed up, even though we know we're at fault. He's there with mercy to forgive us. If we'll only wait, come aside, wait, and tell him how guilty, shameful we feel, or how powerless we feel, or restless or angry we feel. And we've got many tools now to deal with anger, so that you can actually break through even the anger. You can give your anger a voice, but in a very peaceful way. And when I take you through the meditation, then you will begin to experience what I'm talking about. So for me, one of the greatest things I do now, and this morning I was woken up very early, so I get up. First of all, if I'm exhausted, I lay in bed and I get present to myself, because otherwise I won't be at peace. And sometimes I just check myself out. Okay, I have a wonderful counsellor. You live in me. Show me, what am I feeling like today? It's like a body, mind, heart, and spirit. And often I'm exhausted, tired, and because I've become the road runner again, instead of being restful, restless. And I know that I'll hit brick walls if I don't come and sit and be still again and wait. One little more story I love to tell is about this lady, and it's not at all about me being critical of her, but it's an example for you that came for years and years and years to get prayer from people and to get help from people. And I can remember one time I was actually in a leadership role, and she was coming up towards me at this healing mass. And I said to God, oh, what can I say? What more can I say to her? What more can I do? Anyway, all I got in my mind, and this is always about asking and listening. Do you do the asking and do you do the listening? Otherwise, it's not a relationship. It's about you doing all the right things and you're suppressing all the negative things. Anyway, all I got was for her to come aside, here we go again, for 1 hour a day. Now that's a big ask. I often say to people, start at 10 minutes, and then I find it just multiplies, but make it a priority. First thing in the morning, if possible. And so she said, and off she went with all the stories. And I said, this is what I get for you. I can't help you anymore today. I saw her 6 months later. She came aside. She did. So this is a grace. She did what had come to me. And she said, everything, all the chaos, the son on drugs, husband sick, the list went on of chaos and things going wrong in her life. She said, everything had changed. And she said, I even don't know how it's actually happened. All I know is I came aside for an hour. And as you said, often I fell asleep because she was exhausted. But I said, you will be, God will honour that anyway. So just come aside, even be still, talk to him, listen, whatever comes to you. Anyway, to cut a long story short, everything changed. Now I saw her 6 months later. and all the chaos had came back. So I said, are you still spending an hour a day coming aside? She said, oh no, I've forgotten about that. See, the trouble is with we human beings is when things are fixed up, and lots of people come from breakthroughs and they have wonderful breakthroughs, but then they've got to change their ways. They've got to do what I have to do. All of it is come aside by ourselves and be quiet and get some rest in the presence until our body settles, our mind settles, our heart settles. I used to spend 2 hours doing that because I was determined that if I sat long enough, God would do something with me before I knew how to deal with my feelings and my beliefs and all the things that I've learned now that are on the website. So I've probably said enough about that. But also, just on a little lighter note, find rest in, like this morning. You're going to think I'm crazy in this cold day, but I've just had this longing to go down to the sea. I've been down to the sea and soaking in the sea. It's freezing. The sea's pretty cold. But I actually went and lay there and I just don't know what it's doing. It's apparently it's great for inflammation and it's great for your blood vessels. And I just got this thing to do it. So it's calmed all my body. I come back, have a shower, and I feel so alive. Tanya goes dancing. She loves dancing. I used to love dancing with her. Do what it is, whether it's singing, dancing, gardening, and find your rest. I've just been away for a week and I found rest doing little things, but allowing the one who's created me to do it with me and for him. So no stress in doing them and waiting until I get them all done. Because that I used to be like the road runner. I have to get it all done or finished. So no more of that. Just what makes you restful. Listening to music. What is it, as well as what I'm saying, which is the most important thing. It refreshes your soul. Find balance. Balance has come into my life slowly. It's totally out of balance. It's coming into my life beautifully. And things are effortlessly happening now. I've got to tell you the secret. You already know this, and I already knew this for 40 odd years since my walk began. But this has been a secret for me lately. Particularly the last 4 or 5 months, I've made a priority. Please listen to this. And it brings so much blessing, so many blessings. I've made it a priority to put my love of my Creator first and foremost, to do everything with him and for him, cutting up the carrots, spending time with him, listening to him, even if it's just in the Word of God, being still. And if an image or a sense comes to me, if not, I'll just spend that time. Would you do that? It's a commitment. It's a decision. It's a decision. Will you make that decision? That decision then will take you not on your own, but with a capacity beyond you to deal with and respond to life situations with the one who knows to bring order out of chaos, to bring rest and peace. Choose life. This brought life to my daughter, life to me, life to that other lady of chaos. And it brings life in all sorts of ways. And blessing after blessing after blessing is coming. I just got the words, you're coming into a blessing time after years of challenges. It can be that easy to put him first commandment. And then from that place, you'll automatically love your neighbour as yourself. It covers everything. And then your life will open up in all the areas where he wants to use you, and you will feel life and life to the full. So what are you going to do? What are you going to choose? Please do what I did. Please. And persevere and endure until you become complete, lacking nothing. Thank you for listening.